Today is Monday, November 27th, and we have a potpourri of football notes, including Thanksgiving with Dolly, a Cowboy stat that will make you say, golly, and why some football recruiting rankings become nothing but folly.
And now, a word from our title sponsor.
Are all financial advisors fiduciaries? Fewer than you think. Not knowing could reduce your lifestyle. Hi, I'm Mitch Kramer, founder and CEO of Fluent Financial. A fiduciary is a regulatory term to reduce conflicts of interest in wealth management. A fiduciary always works in your best interest. A non-fiduciary advisor might put their compensation or company ahead of yours. At Fluent Financial, we are certified financial planners acting as fiduciary advisors. To learn more, go to fluentfinancial.com or Fluent Financial's YouTube channel.
Every year on Thanksgiving, the Cowboys play and they try to put forward an extravaganza at halftime. And this year, they did just that. Dolly Parton, iconic Dolly Parton, sang her hits, Jolene, 9 to 5. She did the acclaimed Queen song, We Are the Champions. She was a huge hit. But on social media, there still appeared some criticism. I don't understand those people. Dolly Parton's 77 years old. And oh yeah, she looked a little odd in a cowboy cheerleader uniform. But all those present-day cheerleaders who were on the field probably looked at her and silently prayed that they were that good-looking at 77 years old. She's been an icon for decades, popular. Even if it's not your jam, why not just enjoy a 77-year-old out there doing her thing? The furious game of musical chairs in college football has begun. Let's see this weekend. Mississippi State hired their new coach. So did Michigan State, and so did A&M, naming Duke coach Mike Elko their new head coach for the fired Jimbo Fisher. Now, this one made a lot of sense because Elko was the defensive coordinator for the Aggies just 2 years ago when, amongst other things, they went 9-1 and won the Orange Bowl. But out there still, Houston's looking for a coach. So is Indiana, UTEP, now Duke, and Oregon State. By the way, Jonathan Smith's move from Oregon State to Michigan State, while it looks a little odd, maybe made the most sense. Oregon State and Washington State have been left behind by their Pac-12 friends and colleagues who all departed for other conferences. Oregon State's taking a big step down, and Jonathan Smith wanted to stay a Power 5 coach. But now we've reached the part of the season where the playoffs are upon us, and we'll see who's in the Final Four of college football, and we'll also see all these schools searching for new head coaches. Oh, hail. No, I'm not cursing. That's the name of a terrific Dallas roofing company, in business more than a decade. They handle residential or commercial properties, and those weird insurance forms that seem to be written in a foreign language. Oh, hail can simplify that process for you also. So, the next time something happens to your roof, just say, oh, hail. OHHHAIL.com. Oh, hail. You know, every spring, there's much ado and fanfare about the recruiting of high school kids. But while that's very nice, and yeah, the rankings make some sense, they do not at all guarantee success. We see teams that never show up in the top 20 or 30 or 35 recruiting schools, and yet there they are at the end of the year, somewhere in the top 25 in rankings. For example, Jimbo Fisher at Texas A&M. He had the number 1 recruiting class in America. Number 1. By the way, he'd also had highly ranked classes in 21, and he had another highly ranked class in 23. Jimbo's now unemployed. In 22, that team that had the number 1 recruiting class in America went 5-7. And this year, they followed it up by going 7-5. All those recruiting classes are nice, but if they don't produce, and then several of them bail through the transfer portal for other schools, which is happening, then we have to totally rethink what those recruiting ranks were. And we have a second very important recruiting season, the transfer portal. That's where teams can get very good players from other people around the country to transfer into their schools. In an example, it looks like the 3 finalists for the Heisman Trophy this year will be all quarterbacks. Jaden Daniels from LSU, Bo Nix from Oregon, and Michael Penix from Washington. All of them transferred into those schools from someplace else. Daniels left Arizona State, Nix left Auburn, and Penix left Indiana. Maybe what we need at some point next spring is a transfer portal set of rankings. With seasonings, you seem to need so many, and then they just sit in your spice cabinet month after month. That is not true of Goodness Steak seasonings. Now, I know the name steak suggests that it's very good on steak, which it is. But Goodness Steak seasoning is so versatile. Use it on veggies, burgers, soups, even popcorn. Get it by going to the website, bringthetasty.com. That's bringthetasty.com. Goodness, this seasoning is good. There's now a snowstorm of numbers in sports. Stats, analytics. Why, for heaven's sakes, during football games, they can tell us at any second the chance of winning the game that each side has. And in baseball, the lineups now are subject to endless tinkering by these numbers types. They can suck the life out of sports a bit at times. But on Thanksgiving, in Dallas's 45-10 dismantling of the Washington Commanders, we were provided one amazing stat. In that game, Washington rushed for at least 100 yards, threw for over 300 yards, committed only 1 turnover, had less than 25 yards in penalties, and had a time of possession of 37 minutes. You look at those numbers and you think, how in the world did they lose? And you'd be right to think that. In the last 25 years, such teams with 100 or more yards rushing, 300 passing, more than 35 minutes of time of possession, 1 or no turnovers, and less than 25 penalties, had gone 57-0. That's 57-0. Until Washington accomplished all those numbers last Thursday and lost by 35 points. Next. By next Monday, we'll know the teams in the college football playoff. Usually at this point of the season, we have a pretty good idea who's getting in anyway. But this year, there are lots of intrigues. Let's start with the college football conference playoff games coming up this weekend. Hey, Michigan's in the Final Four. I mean, they're not going to lose to Iowa as a 22-point favorite. They're in as the Big Ten champion. And the winner of the game between Washington and Oregon is in. That's two unbeaten teams. The winner gets in the Final Four. And Georgia is in if they beat Alabama. But wait. What if they don't? Georgia's a two-time defending national champion. They're winners of 29 games in a row, an all-time SEC record. But they're only a 5-point favorite over Alabama. What if 11-1 Alabama, a traditional power, pulls the upset? First, wouldn't Georgia still get in? I mean, they've been number one all season. And wouldn't Alabama also be in at 12-1 with a beating of the number one team in the country? If so, if that Alabama upset happens, it would shut out all the others. Unbeaten Florida State, once beaten Texas, once beaten Ohio State, and the loser of the Oregon-Washington game. All those teams will have had fabulous seasons, but all could very well be on the outside looking in if Alabama upsets Georgia. And come Saturday, all those teams, Florida State, Texas, Ohio State, the loser of Oregon-Washington, they'll all be crazy fans of Georgia to beat Alabama, which will keep the door for one of them to get in the college football Final Four. And finally, the Cowboys didn't play Sunday, but they still suffered a disappointment, and for the second week in a row. The Cowboys have been trying to track down the Eagles. The Cowboys keep winning, but last week they won and hoped that Kansas City, the defending Super Bowl champion, would take down Philadelphia. They didn't. The Eagles upset Kansas City. And then this week again, the Cowboys posted a big win over Washington and hoped that Buffalo, another excellent team, could upset Philadelphia. And for almost all of Sunday afternoon, it looked like they would. But then Philadelphia rallied again from 10 points down in the fourth quarter, forced overtime on a 59-yard field goal. And then after Buffalo had kicked a field goal or overtime, Philly drives the length of the field to win another really tough game. Philly's now fairly well through their tough part of the schedule. Dallas is just entering their tough part of the schedule. It's looking more and more like Dallas will be a wild card team again this season.
Today's episode has been brought to you by Fluent Financial, by OHL Roofing, and by Goodness Steak Seasoning.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Just Wondering. If you enjoyed it, please hit follow, and then each episode every weekday will be delivered straight to you. And if we might ask one more favor, please share it with friends. I'm Norm Hitzges, and every day I'll be just wondering about something.
And I'm Mary Hitzges, and I'm just wondering too.
Just Wondering is a production of DSP Media for FanStream Sports. You can find Norm's show along with other great programming at fanstreamsports.com.